Robinson. The vigil held in Madison on the 10th anniversary of the teenager's death.
The race for a position on Wisconsin Supreme Court ramping up. How Democrats are trying to reach out to voters in the purplest county in the state.
And more than 1 million people rely on Medicaid in Wisconsin. The concerns tonight over potential cuts to the program. That's all coming up on News 3 Now at 10. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Carlson.
And I'm Eric Franke. Thanks for joining us tonight. The community remembers Tony Robinson. Madison police officer Matthew Kenny shot and killed Robinson. It was back in 2015.
Dozens gathered to remember Robinson on Williamson Street today. Our Tanisha Shaw has more.
Williamson Street packed and full of people remembering Tony Robinson Jr. Thursday.
I think that the reflection of him still being here is shown in the people that showed up and the continuous progress that we have towards his justice and change.
10 years ago, Madison police officer Matt Kenny shot the unarmed 19-year-old 7 times after responding to a call at a house. He still works for MPD and hasn't been legally connected to any wrongdoings with this case.
And it's not about being a good officer. It's about an officer who chose to shoot without cause. Not the first time he did it, either.
Family also told me that the one thing that has remained consistent over the past 10 years is their fight for justice.
We all stand together or we will all fall together. That's how I feel and still feel. Look at the evidence. See for yourself. Make your own judgment. That's all you have to do.
Thursday night, community members mourned and seek justice through poetry at Cafe Coda.
I came here because Matt Kenny deserves to lose that badge.
They also cried together over a candlelight outside of the home where Kenny shot Robinson in 2015. A large crowd mirroring the protests and memorials that sparked national attention 10 years ago.
Why aren't you tired yet?
To me personally, it's bothersome that we've invested more into transportation than we have in mental health in this city, particularly.
Community members said they're willing to fight for 10 more years, despite not seeing progress towards getting Officer Kenny charged or convicted.
We deserve to hear the court case in front of a jury of our peers. We deserve for someone to examine this and say, hey, whether you win or not, you deserve to have somebody listen to it. The same due process should be done for us that it is for anybody else.
Reporting in Madison, Tanisha Shaw, News 3 Now.
More gun safety. That is the goal of Dane County board members, legislators, and community advocates.
Well, they're talking about Resolution 308, or what they call common sense gun reform. Our Meryl Hubbard has the story.
For me, it's just a matter of I don't want to fear losing my friends or my own life.
Stella Oshadot is a high school sophomore from Sauk County.
And I mean, I live with it every day, and I'd like to stop having to live with that.
Stella stood alongside her mother and other local leaders who are pushing for more gun control.
Here we are once again asking the legislature to do the right thing by our kids, to save their lives.
They are standing for 2024 Resolution 308, which pushes state legislatures to pass reforms like red flag laws, universal background checks, and enhanced safety measures for gun control.
Adding tragedy upon tragedy is the infuriating fact that Wisconsin's Republican leadership refuses to implement these tools, these reforms. This shouldn't be a partisan issue.
In January of 2025, Republican lawmakers proposed bills they say would protect children from gun violence by arming teachers, giving grants to schools to improve building safety and staff training. But local leaders at the state capitol Thursday say they still want the legislature to take action on gun control.
I don't know what it's going to take, but you know, other states have done this, and some with Republican support. This is not rocket science. This is basic humanity. It is our job to be making a world where our kids don't just survive, but thrive.
And Stella says she wants to see her generation live without fear of gun violence.
It makes me proud to be part of my generation because we're not going to stand for it, and it makes me sad to watch others have failed us.
At the meeting, Senator Kelder Royce said that gun reform bills have been introduced year after year, but that Republicans in the legislature historically throw them out.
Meryl Hubbard, thank you. Southern Wisconsin not yet finished with the rain and snow.
Yeah, we have some flurries expected to come over the coming days. Meteorologist Jacob Montesano has more out on the weather patio. Not snowing yet, though.
Yeah, no, the snow is expected later in the night, but we do have one more round of snow before temperatures really feel like spring. Now, temperatures right now are on the cooler side. Most of the area has already dropped below freezing, lower 30s, upper 20s. They're not going to drop much more tonight, but here's the good news. It's been breezy over the last 24 hours, but right now the winds are very calm. Now, let's take a look at the snowfall. Looking at the current radar, you can already see some of those flurries getting close to southern Wisconsin, out to the southwest in Iowa, but the bulk of the precipitation won't move in until a little bit later in the night, probably not until after midnight for much of the area, but it will likely spread out across southern Wisconsin before sunrise. Now, the furthest north that we will likely see snow will be around the Dells. Far northern counties won't see much from this system, but throughout the morning into the early afternoon, Madison and especially areas to the south will see this consistent snowfall. Could see some accumulation, but we're not going to see quite as much as we saw yesterday, but actually areas to the south will see a little bit more compared to yesterday, because areas near Janesville, further south towards the Illinois border, didn't actually see much from this past system. So you folks actually a little bit more. And overall, the snow does look to clear out by the time we get to the afternoon, especially by the evening. So again, one more round of snow, but I'll talk more in detail about the very nice temperatures we're seeing next week. I'll have those details a little bit later.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. One person is dead and 3 people hurt after a crash in Madison this afternoon. It happened between Raymond Road and South Gammon Lane. First responders got a call just after 4 o'clock about this crash. One adult was pronounced dead at the scene. 2 children and another adult were taken to the hospital. Their conditions are considered non-life-threatening. Stay with News 3 Now and Channel 3000 as we continue to cover this developing story.
Well, with the Wisconsin Supreme Court race approaching, Republican and Democratic groups around the state are ramping up efforts to galvanize supporters, and in purple Sauk County, the efforts are no different. Tonight, Wisconsin Democrats hosting a town hall in Sauk City. It comes as the latest Marquette Law School poll finds that 38% of registered voters don't know enough about conservative Brad Schimmel to form an opinion. 58% of registered voters said the same of his opponent, Susan Crawford, who's backed by the state's Democratic Party. And following Elon Musk's contributions to the race, Democrats are branding their campaign as the people versus Elon Musk.
But what I see in Sauk County is we are angry and we are afraid. Yes, right? Right. And so what I'm concerned about with this anger and this fear is the possibility that we will feel helpless, that we will be resigned.
Susan Noer is the chair of the Democratic Party of Sauk County. She spoke at the town hall alongside State Senator Dianne Hesselbein and State Party Chair Ben Wickler. Meanwhile, the Sauk County GOP is distributing Brad Schimmel yard signs. The Republican group invites community members to gather in Rock Springs for campaign-related events every Saturday from 9 to noon.
The UW Police Department has announced it has a new police chief. Brent Plish will officially become chief on March 16th. He currently holds the interim police position. Plish previously served in the position of Assistant Chief for Administration and Support.
Well, when we come back on News 3 Now at 10, Jacob will fill us in about the warmer weather coming our way next week.
And the fate of Medicare is up in the air. We'll take a look at the concerns from local disabled community members over proposal cuts. That's next.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
Welcome back. Just last week, the U.S. House of Representatives passed the Trump administration's budget proposal. It included $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. An analysis by the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says the plan cannot be achieved without reducing spending on Medicaid. And that clashes with comments from Republicans who say they won't touch the program. Sarah introduces us to members of the local disabled community who are in fear over what's next. Sarah?
That's right, Eric. These are just some of the faces of Medicaid, which serves more than 1 million people in the state of Wisconsin. Now, if the Senate and House agree on this plan, the House Committee on Energy and Commerce will have to find $800 billion in savings, a number that's impossible to reach without slashing Medicaid. Now, we're talking about 1 in 3 children, 55% of nursing home residents, and almost half of the disabled residents in the Badger State.
35-year-old Tyler Engel was born with spinal muscular atrophy.
My hand, the other one.
Yeah.
His arms are slowly getting weaker. In a wheelchair since the age of 3, Tyler has been independent since 18 and has quite the resume. He has degrees in physics and mechanical engineering and is currently working as a researcher studying respite care and the caregiver crisis, not to mention knitting as a hobby.
I'm working on a sweater right now, too.
Tyler admits he's on edge due to the possibility of cuts to Medicaid.
It's always been in the back of my mind, but it's been in the front of my mind lately, yeah.
He relies on Medicaid for health care and caregivers and is especially frustrated by the president's suggestions of waste and fraud.
We're not going to touch it. Now, we are going to look for fraud.
Show me what it is.
Tyler's own research shows Medicaid has some of the lowest rates of fraud in the country.
Let's start with CIA or even the senators. How much fraud and waste do they have on their end?
We invited Tyler and a panel of others representing the disabled community to dig deeper.
Medicaid is a shared resource.
Patty Becker's son, Will, uses a Medicaid waiver in order to keep his job at the Hy-Vee in Oregon. Patty is also the director of program operations at Community Living Alliance, a nonprofit that helps those with disabilities.
Right now, for someone to live in one of our state centers is $45,000 a month. For somebody to receive community-based supports through IRS or family care is $4,500 a month. There isn't physical capacity for everyone to physically move somewhere, right, where they're going to stay, as well as that income or that cost to us as taxpayers will dramatically increase.
I enjoy staying busy.
29-year-old Lily Giroux has epilepsy and cognitive disabilities due to her seizures. Her mom, Ann, explains how Medicaid allows Lily to live independently using a job coach and to keep her on track at the Hy-Vee store in Madison.
The alternative is perhaps a facility, a long-term care facility or 24-hour care or going to the ER more often. That's more expensive than this preventative care that's what Medicaid is.
And then there's Krijan Olsen, a researcher in healthcare access who has cerebral palsy herself and whose teenage daughter also uses a Medicaid waiver. And all of these families have to prove they need Medicaid every year.
Someone comes to our home annually and does an evaluation that's extensive, reviews all of her educational and medical records.
We asked if Medicaid doesn't cover services, where do they go?
The local hospitals. We just lost a couple hospitals in the Chippewa Valley area in Wisconsin. It has a big impact. People are traveling 2 hours to get mental health care because they don't have a hospital offering it. And this is all part of the continued ripple effects of having a deep cut in Medicaid.
And it's hard to see the consequences until it's too late.
We think about with the pandemic when all people stopped shopping, they stopped going out, they stopped eating. This could have a similar effect on local communities. Because if we're doing community-based stuff really well, you don't notice it, right? And then that's good. Which is hard when it comes to these moments for all of us, because you can see the pothole.
Yeah, big time.
You won't see Tyler at home alone in his apartment. That's what will happen if there's no one to help him get out and get to work.
Despite Tyler's fear about his future, he continues to fight for his care every year, as long as it exists.
I lose my home, I lose my job, I have to live with my parents. Who knows, probably end up getting sick, and it could easily cost me my life.
It's hard to hear. A lot of fear and uncertainty out there, and not just for those in the disabled community. And there is understandable confusion also over all of the numbers that we've been hearing about.
It is a lot to take in. So what's next in the budget process?
Well, we've discussed before that the Senate has its own version of this budget framework, essentially. But now the two chambers will be having to work together on a common plan to present to the president. But he has signaled that he supports the House plan we've been talking about over the Senate plan.
We will keep people posted. Sarah, thank
Absolutely.
you. Snow could be moving soon into the Madison region.
But we should not have to worry about it sticking around on the ground. We have Jacob Montesano to explain.
Yeah, although it may stick on the ground when it's actually falling, we are going to see those mild temperatures really melt things down for next week. Now, as we take a look at the 3 things that you need to know, we are going to see that light snow, mild temperatures over the weekend, and we are going to see even warmer temperatures by the time we get to next week. So taking a look at the amount of snow that we've seen so far this winter with this most recent system added in, still well below normal. In fact, if we don't have an unprecedented middle and end of March into early April, it's going to likely be a below normal winter by a large margin. Right now, over 20 inches below normal. We may stay below 20 inches below what we normally see. Now, taking a look at that snowfall, what we're seeing right now, we are going to see the snow showers move in later in the night, probably around that 3 to 4 a.m. time frame. Most of the area that will see snow should see snow around sunset, if not a few hours after it. Again, the furthest north we're going to see the snow will be around the Dells. North of the Dells probably won't see much in the form of snow, but Madison and areas to the south will see it throughout the morning into the early afternoon. It'll clear out around noon to 2 p.m. and then, although some lingering snow flurries are possible for areas to the southeast during the middle afternoon, by the time we get closer to sunset, all that snow will have cleared out by then. Now, taking a look at the accumulation forecast, we'll see about an inch, maybe up to 2 inches for far southwestern Wisconsin. Madison will only see at most an inch, probably closer to that half-inch range. So we're likely not going to see as much snow as we did yesterday for Dane County. But areas to the south that didn't see as much snow yesterday could see just a little bit more, could create some slippery roads. The good news is that it will melt very quickly with the temperatures. Now, overnight, we're going to have lows in the lower 30s, upper 20s. That's very similar to the temperatures right now, so they're not going to change much throughout the night. And then for tomorrow, highs will be in the upper 30s and lower 40s. We also will see mostly cloudy skies even after the snow clears out, with clear skies developing pretty quickly Friday night. And as we head into Saturday, we're going to continue to see those clear skies. Highs will be in the middle 40s Saturday, near 50 for Sunday. And it will get a little bit breezy on Sunday, but still, with the temperatures being this nice, and yes, high of 50 is nice for southern Wisconsin, I'm sure the winds aren't going to be too bad at all. Now, the temperatures are just going to continue rising from there. Highs will be near 60 for Monday and Tuesday, middle 60s by the time we get to next weekend. By next weekend, we are expecting a good chance of some rainfall. Again, the best chance of the rain is, it's still a lot could change between now and then, but it does look like the weekend will be the best chance. Again, clocks are going to be moving forward this weekend, so it is daylight savings already. So it will feel even more like spring with the later sunset, as we are going to see those 60s possible Monday and Tuesday.
And coming up in sports, the WCHA's best. The honors a trio of Badgers received from the league today. That's next on News 3 Now. It's been a banner year for Casey O'Brien, and it got even better tonight. The Badgers senior forward was named the WCHA's Player and Forward of the Year, but the honors weren't quite done just yet for the Badgers. For the second straight year, Caroline Harvey took home the league's Defender of the Year, and Mark Johnson was tabbed as the conference's Coach of the Year. Now, as far as this time of year goes, well, the key, as Coach Johnson likes to say, is clear that space in your head and play for free.
For us to play our best game, we can't really play with that fear. We have to trust each other, trust that our ability is good enough, and that when we play our game, we're going to come out on top. And so I think we've done a really good job of not focusing on that and not thinking, if we mess up, if we don't play well, we're going to lose. We just focus on a positive outcome, and it's worked for us so far.
And speaking of the women's hockey team, be sure to check out this week's Wisconsin Huddle with Kirsten Sims. Show airs tomorrow night at 6:30 right here on News 3 Now. High school boys hockey, McFarland back at state for the first time since 2000, taking on Tomahawk in the Division II semis. No score in the second. Spartans on the power play, and Nolan Sturmer goes corner pocket to light the lamp and give McFarland a 1-0 lead. But Tomahawk would answer right back. Braden Lamer paints the post, part of 3 straight hatchet goals. Spartans come up short in the semis, 3-2, the final. Cap City Cougars back at the state tournament for the second straight year, trying to get past the Bay Area Ice Bears in their semifinal matchup, but the top seed was skating like the top seed. Ava McDonald sneaks one past the tender to make it 2-0 Bay Area. Cap City falls in the semis 4-0, the final. High school girls hoops, Stoughton looking to knock off reigning D3 champ Edgewood in a Division II sectional semifinal matchup. Vikings down early, but not out of this one. Ella Hammaker takes it to the cup for 2 to make it an 8-point game, but then Edgewood would go on a bit of a run. Anna Miller drives and dishes to Macy Faust, and she finds the bottom of the net on the 3 ball. Then later in the first half, more Crusaders. This time it's Miller again, and she's going to dial one up from deep. She had 20 first half points. Edgewood moves on with a 67-38 win. We're back after this.
If they refuse to hear from voters in person, I'll just send them a letter.
A boom! All new CBS Tonight.
The world's largest and oldest iceberg has come to a standstill after running aground near the remote island of South Georgia. That's out in the middle of the Atlantic, about 1,500 miles east of Argentina. The megaberg, named A23A, cracked off from continental Antarctica back in 1986, and its elusive path has captivated scientists.
It really is fascinating. This frozen giant weighs over 1 trillion tons. You hear that?
Who weighed that?
1 trillion tons, right? How do they know? It's currently stuck on an ice shelf near the island, famous for its populations of penguins and seals. Scientists say its position now may actually help stir up nutrients in the area, making food more available for those penguins and seals. But
that is
pretty.
You're telling me that's not South Georgia in the United States?
Yeah,
right.
I had to look up exactly where it was. I knew it was down there because we have a nation of Georgia too, but out in the middle of the Atlantic, about 1,500 miles
We need to
away
be more
from Argentina.
creative with our names.
Yeah,
There's
everything's
3
named
Georgias
Georgia
out there.
Exactly.
Right.
Final check of the forecast, and we're back with more snow overnight, right?
Yeah, the snow is going to unfortunately be back for Friday morning, but it's not going to be back for long. Look at next week. 60 is in the forecast for Monday and Tuesday. We'll get a little bit breezy, but with those temperatures, I'm sure people will take the wind as a compromise. So overall, very mild for next week. We do have a good chance of rain by next weekend, but I mean, it's going to be a good weekend, especially Monday, Tuesday.
I love it.
I think it's
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us at 10, folks.
Have a good night.